Okay, good morning. I do see there are 16 attendees, so I assume it will put you into the webinar soon. Once you're on, if you can type in the chat and say hello, then I'll know that you're here. Maxim, Bobby, Raquel, Brian, Kaylee, Larry, Lori Lynn, awesome. Amber, Ryan, Etienne, David, Vanessa, Pierre, awesome, lots of people. So thank you for letting me know you're there. Caitlin is there as well, awesome. So while we're just kind of waiting, I'll wait a few more minutes before I start just to see if there's other people to come on. Since the weather's finally kind of warmed up, especially here in Alberta, I'm Tracy, the manager of health promotion from Wainwright, as it says on my slide. So what plans do you guys have for the weekend around the country? If we have lots of people, what are people going to get out and do in this nice weather? If you can type your answers in the chat, then we can all see them. I plan to put some air in my bike tires and go for a bike ride. Brian's going gardening. Maxim is running and playing with the kids. Oh, awesome. Larry's going to get some running in. Lori, Lynn's going to do some yard work. Yeah, it's finally getting nice, so it's good to be out. Rem, hi, Tracy from Cold Lake. I might have to step out 11:30. Okay, awesome. Pierre is going to do some running. Yeah, it's nice running weather for sure. Wainwright's quite busy, a bit windy, so it's not always so great for running. Ryan's going to do some cycling as well. He's much more serious about it than I am. So, oh, I'm sorry, Lori Lynn. Arun, hopefully I'm saying that right. Teaching fitness for PSP. Just going to have a quick look at the attendees. Okay. So I think I will get started. I know Lori Lynn mentioned it was the moment of silence in Nova Scotia for the terrible tragedy that happened this past weekend. I've kind of missed the news this morning because of this, but I know there's a visual tonight that you can watch on TV as well. So thoughts to people in that part of Canada. So I'm going to get started. So this webinar is on the awareness of energy drinks. And as I mentioned, I am the health promotion manager in Wainwright. So before we get started, we just have a few things to go over. The presentation you're about to view is the intellectual property of the Department of National Defense. Any reproduction or retransmission of the slides contained in this presentation is strictly forbidden. Some of the topics discussed in this webinar may be of a sensitive nature and not appropriate for children. We ask for parental discussion. So there's probably nothing too sensitive in this webinar compared to one that might be about stress management or anger or things like that. But this presentation is designed for an adult audience, so we will talk about caffeine levels for children and teenagers, but this presentation is not designed for that audience. It's designed for adults. Please understand that people's stories are theirs alone to tell, and anything that is shared by participants in this webinar, either on camera or in the chat, is not to be discussed outside the webinar. So if someone tells us they had 5 energy drinks this morning, please don't share that with other people. The webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing later on caffconnection.ca. Active participation is encouraged, and you may simply follow along with using the chat or the video microphone functions if you prefer. So I'm going to encourage you to use the chat. I didn't give you access to the video or microphone because it can just be too difficult. If you do want to do that at the end, I can give you access to your microphone if you'd like to ask a question so we can hear it. If you think of some questions throughout the presentation, you can type them in, or I'll give you time at the end. I will have to go back and have a look and find those in the chat, but you're welcome to ask them anytime throughout. If I see it and can answer it, I will at the time. If not, I'll go back and answer it after. So enough of the housekeeping stuff. Let's get on with the webinar. So this is our outline for this morning. I'm going to say this morning because it's still morning in Alberta. So for this webinar, so we'll look at a definition of energy drinks. What are they? We'll look at the history. When did we first start seeing them? What was the prevalence of use what's the prevalence of use in the CAF? What's the composition of energy drinks? So what are some common ingredients we find? What are some of the health risks? What are the regulations that Canada's put in place around energy drinks? What are the recommendations Health Canada has for energy drinks? And lastly, we'll look just briefly at relaxation drinks. So why would someone need more energy? Why would someone turn to an energy drink? So to start, I'm going to give you a quote from Ryan Andrews from Precision Nutrition. So in his quote, he says, "I mean, the only time energy levels bottom out is when we skip sleep, skip workouts, and consume pathetic food. Wait a minute, I just described most of North America. Okay, I do understand why people are drawn to canned pick-me-ups." So we're kind of, he's kind of saying, why are people turning to these? But, sometimes we're skipping sleep or we're not sleeping as well, especially during this time. We're working from home, socially distancing. We're skipping workouts that we'd usually do because the gym is closed. We're consuming pathetic food because we want to get some comfort from food, or we also are at home, so those foods are there. So he can see why people sometimes turn to those. So I'm going to give you a little poll right now. I'll bring it up on the screen and get you to answer it. So I'll share it with you. It should come up. So have you ever had an energy drink? Yes or no? I'm going to predict 100% yes, but oh, it's not. Okay, there still might be a few people that need to respond. I'll wait another minute. There's 22 attendees, so there could be a couple more people to respond. The majority of us have had an energy drink before, it looks like. I've definitely had an energy drink before. I'm not part of this poll, but I definitely had a few before I started this job. I don't think I've had any in the 10 years since I've been the manager of health promotion, but I definitely had some before, especially if it was hot out and I kind of needed that caffeine boost. So about 75% of us have had one and 25% of us have never had one. So that's pretty awesome if you've never had one. I think that's kind of in the minority. Okay, so thank you for doing that. Okay, so we're going to look at a definition of energy drinks. So energy drinks, and this definition comes from the National Public Health Institute of Quebec. It's any product in the form of a drink or concentrated liquid that claims to contain a mixture of ingredients having the property to raise energy levels and physical alertness, and it excludes sports drinks. Okay, so it doesn't include things like Gatorade and Powerade and other sports drinks. It's just energy drinks, so things like Red Bulls and Monsters and Rock Stars. So next we're going to look at the history of energy drinks, and I put some Jolt Colas on here because this is kind of the first energy drink I probably ever saw, although we didn't call them energy drinks when I was a teenager, was Jolt Colas. And I looked it up and it has about 120 milligrams of caffeine in a can, so more than a traditional soda did at the time, but not as much as energy drinks have today. So it's kind of like the first energy drink I really ever saw. So highly caffeinated soft drinks appeared in Europe and Asia in the 1960s, and energy drinks as we know them today became available to the public in 1987 with the introduction of Red Bull in Austria. And then in 1997, that Red Bull was introduced into North America. The energy drink industry has grown exponentially and has become a multi-billion-dollar market. As it says, the global energy drink market is worth multi-billion dollars and is expected to reach 84.80 billion US dollars by 2025. So large companies, lots of money, lots of power as well with that multi-million-dollar business. Okay, so I'm going to get you to type some answers into the chat. So why do people use energy drinks? So why do people drink them? Quite a few of you had said that you drank one, so why did you choose to drink it? And if you hadn't, why do you think people might drink energy drinks? So if you can type those into the chat. So why do people choose use energy drinks? Monday morning and you're tired, to keep you awake. Combating fatigue during shift work. Yeah, so if people are working shift work, to stay awake. Pick me up when coffee is not at reach. The taste, some people like the taste of it. They look cool, the cans for sure. Ryan says tired, and sometimes they just become part of the routine. So just like people's cup of coffee, for sure. So that part of your routine. Use it as a pre-workout. Pierre mentioned the taste. Okay, so a variety of good reasons. Staying focused, combat fatigue, pre-workout, during workout as well. We'll talk about that as well. So sometimes people use it for a variety of reasons. So thank you for all those responses. Oh, give me a boost when you're tired or driving, for sure. And Isa says hello. Awesome. Thank you for all those responses. So I think you guys mentioned most of these, something related to these. So staying awake and alert is probably the most common one. I need that boost Monday morning, feeling kind of fatigued in the afternoon. To get some extra energy or motivation, you have to task you've got to do and you're not that motivated, or a workout or whatever that is. So you'll have an energy drink. People will use it to improve their sports performance. If people are thirsty, so the weather's warming up, have a nice cool energy drink to quench your thirst. If people are studying, so if people are working on assignments or courses, especially now people may have signed up more online, they have energy drinks so they get that extra boost to help studying. It also can improve the taste of alcoholic beverages. So if you don't like whatever hard liquor, you might add some energy drink to it. So someone mentioned the taste. Partying, so people are out partying, starting to feel the effects of alcohol or feeling kind of tired because it's getting late, they'll have an energy drink so they can keep the party going. Some people will consume them because they think it improves their health. And lastly, gaming. I didn't realize, but that's a really common drinking energy drinks and gaming, because people are gaming online, so they have those energy drinks so they can stay alert and keep playing all night. And when I mentioned to someone I was doing this webinar, they said that their teenage daughter was that they did that all the time, the energy drink and the gaming, so it really goes together. Okay, thank you for your participation. So next, we're going to look at the prevalence of use in the CAF. So I did surveyed you guys, but not everybody is necessarily a CAF member, but this is some data about CAF members. So this chart, the information from this chart was gathered from the Health and Lifestyle Information Survey in 2013-2014. And it's not reservists, it's just regular force members. And so they were asked, did you have an energy drink in the last 12 months? So I asked you if you ever had an energy drink, but this just asked, have you had one in the last year? So 9.7%, so about 1 in 10 said they had one at least weekly or more. And 26.6 said they had one at least monthly or less. So if we look, it's about 36.3% of CAF members that had an energy drink in the last 12 months. Unfortunately, we don't know how much is consumed or how it was consumed. So, you know, they just said, did you have one this week? Well, we don't know if somebody is having 2 or 3 every day, or if they just had one that week. So we don't really know the data there. We also don't know the context. Are people drinking them at work because they buy them at their canteen? Are they drinking them when they're partying or gaming? And we also don't know the average age of the users either. Typically, they're more used younger people, younger adults, but they didn't collect that data. So when we look at this chart as a whole, they asked regular force members if they'd consumed dietary supplements or energy drinks at least once. So in that year, about 75% of people had consumed those products, dietary supplements or energy drinks, at least once. And the top 3, as you can see, the number one is multivitamins, then energy drinks, and then protein powders was the third one. So just some good data about the use in the CAF. So next, composition of energy drinks. So as the picture says, what is in your energy drink? Energy drink consumption is a relatively recent phenomenon. So even though they were introduced in 1997 in North America, they became much popular later on. So there's been very few rigorous studies that have examined the effects of the products, what the products have on our health. So based on the scientific data, the potential effects of consuming energy drinks will be primarily related to caffeine and sugar. So we're going to talk about sugar and caffeine today. With respect to the other ingredients in energy drinks, the levels present in those energy drinks appear to have few adverse effects in the short term, but they don't know necessarily the effects in the long term, just because they're relatively new. So we'll go through some common ingredients in energy drinks and talk about each one and some of the potential side effects if you have too much of that ingredient. So of course, it's a fluid, so they contain some water. Another ingredient in energy drinks is sugar. So most energy drinks are high in sugar in the form of high fructose corn syrup or cane sugar. Some energy drinks might use creative names and say things like, oh, it's a natural cane juice, when it actually still is cane sugar. So it's still sugar. It doesn't matter how nice they try to make the name. So high sugar drinks are linked to obesity and also to tooth decay. And also the sugar and energy drinks can cause your blood sugar and your insulin to spike, which later will give you that crash-like feeling. So you'll have that sugar crash. Sugar is also somewhat addictive. You have some, you want to have some more. And if you're choosing to drink sugar-free energy drinks, then you're consuming any number of artificial sweeteners. There's always a bit of debate around the negative effects of those, particularly aspartame. However, all major health institutions regard them as safe. So just another note on sugar. When Canada updated its food guide in January 2019, it made a statement about sugar. So I'm just going to share that with you. So it says sugary drinks should not be consumed regularly. Sugar substitutes do not need to be consumed to reduce the intake of free sugars. So the message I think it's giving is that if you're having high sugar energy drinks and you want to cut those out, don't replace them with a sugar-free one. Replace it with another beverage. And Canada's Food Guide said, make water your beverage of choice. So if you're cutting back on energy drinks, don't replace it with the sugar-free one. So energy drinks have caffeine, and we'll talk more about the amount of caffeine in different energy drinks and how much caffeine you should have in a bit. And that caffeine can be naturally occurring, or it also can be synthetic. So the next item on the list, taurine, doesn't appear to have any side effects in energy drinks that have been documented. Some countries, France, Denmark, Norway, originally banned energy drinks because of the taurine content, but have since accepted that taurine consumption is safe based on evidence to date. The amount placed in energy drinks is well below what would be needed for therapeutic benefits or any potential side effects. So taurine is just an amino acid that occurs naturally in our bodies. But of course, the one they're putting into the energy drink has been manufactured. But we have enough in our body. There's no need, we need to supplement that. So next item is ginsengs and other herbs. So ginsengs, again, there's some studies that connect it to sleeplessness, while with others refute that. So that might be a reason they want to put it in energy drinks to keep you awake. But there also can be some other symptoms that come with the consumption of ginseng. So low blood pressure, palpitations, headaches, fever. There can be a variety of side effects that go with that. So next on the item is B vitamins. So often energy drinks will add some B vitamins to their ingredients. So one of those is niacin, which is vitamin B3. So if you have more than 35 milligrams of niacin, it can cause flushing of your skin. And if you intake 3,000 milligrams or more, it can result in liver toxicity. So the British Journal of Medicine recently published a case study of a man who consumed about 5 energy drinks a day for a period of 3 weeks. So very heavy use. This caused toxic levels of niacin to build up in his body, and it led to non-viral hepatitis. So it did some permanent damage to his liver because of the buildup of vitamin B3 in his body. The unidentified energy drink in question supplied 200% of the RDA, so the recommended daily amount of vitamin B3. So I looked up on, I think, a Monster label, and a Monster, the niacin on the one I looked at was 170%. So pretty close to that amount. So if you think you drank 5 Monsters a day for 3 weeks. More than 100 milligrams of vitamin B6 can cause some sensory nerve problems or some skin lesions as well. So they often add vitamin B to energy drinks. So when I looked that Monster up, the vitamin B6, it had 220% of your daily recommended allowance of vitamin B6 and 290 of vitamin B12. So they often add those. So I think sometimes people think, oh, they're healthy because there's all these B vitamins in them. So I'll do my best to pronounce the last 2 ingredients. I'm probably not saying it totally right, but just kind of proves if you don't know how to say the ingredient, maybe we shouldn't be consuming it. So glucuronolacetone. I'm probably close, but not perfect. There appears to be no side effects, but there's still debate on its safety. Many countries, including Canada, England, Germany, and France, have concluded that it's not a safety concern. So again, it is a molecule that contributes to the structure of connecting tissues. They claim that it can be an energy enhancer, but it hasn't been proven. And the last item there, inositol. There appears to be no major side effects reported, but it could cause dizziness, tiredness, headaches, and an upset stomach. Ingesting large amounts has been linked to diarrhea. So it is a carb that is found naturally in our bodies. It affects the level of neurotransmitters and the way the body handles glucose. Again, at one time it was a B vitamin, but they removed it because they realized that label because they realized your body was able to make its own. Okay, good. So next we're going to look at some of our favorite probably drug is caffeine. So I'm going to give you another little poll to answer. So, did you have some caffeine today? Ooh, I was thinking it'd be 100%, but it's not. Oh, we're pretty close though. 20 answers, 20. Wait another minute. There might be a few people that haven't answered. We're pretty close to 100%. I was thinking it'd be 100%. So pretty close to 100%, 90%. I had caffeine. I had coffee this morning. I definitely like caffeine, but I've noticed I've been drinking a little bit more, and it has been upsetting my stomach a little bit. Okay, so caffeine. So thank you for doing that poll. Erica says she doesn't drink coffee and cut Coke and pop out. Awesome. And Ice is drinking coffee right now. Awesome. It's good. I often, when I'm a participant in the webinars, I usually have coffee, but I thought when I'm a presenter, I wouldn't have any. So caffeine is the most widely consumed stimulant in the world and occurs naturally among several plants, such as the coffee bean, the cola nut, the tea leaf, and the cacao seed. You'll see it in food and beverage items and also in supplements and medications as well. So what are the benefits of caffeine? Stimulating our brain is probably the reason most of us had some caffeine this morning. So wakefulness is probably the most common manifestation of caffeine consumption. It stimulates the brain by decreasing fatigue and increasing mental alertness. Caffeine also can increase your performance, especially with endurance events. Athletes can typically last longer and work harder, but even brief bouts of exercise can be improved with caffeine use. This may be due to increased alertness and awareness, and I think it's the popularity of pre-workouts. Vanessa is currently drinking some Highlander grog. Awesome. So the reason there is some performance benefits, it can increase your cardiac force and rate and relaxation of airways. So that can increase your oxygen consumption. And it also can increase the mobilization of fatty acids as fuel during exercise. So there is some performance benefits with that. So they do say before your workout, if you have some, a cup of coffee, it can help. The benefits from caffeine are seen with moderate intakes. So Health Canada recommends healthy adults should not have more than 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. And if you have higher intakes of that, it can have a negative effect. So there is some long-term research, especially as we age, around the benefits of caffeine. So observational data suggests that moderate caffeine consumption, so having no more than 400 milligrams per day, and we'll talk about how much that is in a couple slides. It may be associated with the decreased cognitive decline in healthy older adults with dementia. The protective factor of caffeine appears to be more pronounced in women than in men. So I'm going to continue to drink a little bit of caffeine, and hopefully I don't get dementia and I won't have as much cognitive decline. So as well, around diabetes, there's been prospective and cohort data suggesting that long-term consumption of coffee, and it could be decaf as well, there's still usually a little bit of caffeine in decaf coffee, is associated with a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. However, observational studies on association between tea consumption and type 2 diabetes are less clear and mixed. So there seems to be some benefits around coffee and lowering your risk of diabetes, but not tea. Yeah, so Erica wrote a comment. I think not taking coffee regularly gave me a better boost when I have energy drinks or Coke. Yeah, so she's finding better boost from coffee than from having energy drinks or Coke. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. You can type some of these into the chat. So what are some of the drawbacks or undesirable effects of caffeine? Especially, usually we feel those if we've had too much caffeine. So I'll give you some time to type those answers in the chat. So Matthew Lay, oh, haven't seen that name for a while. Headaches. Brian says crashing. Okay, sweating, Ryan said. Kaylee says dehydration. Max, I'm feeling sluggish when you have none, for sure. Dehydration, I get jittery, Raquel said, so kind of getting the shakes. That dependence, the addiction, yeah. Pierre says headache for sure. Larry said tiredness. Insomnia, for sure. If you had too much, you can't fall asleep. Arun, can't focus. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for those answers. So some of the drawbacks, you guys mentioned some of these already. Oh, I got some more. Upset stomach. I either fall asleep right away or you're up forever. Yeah, so if you don't, it can affect you for sure. So awesome. So some of the possible undesirable effects, sleep disturbances. So you guys mentioned those: headaches, palpitations, agitation, irritable, anxiety, restlessness, tremors, and gastrointestinal comfort too. And I noticed that sometimes you get an upset stomach if you drink too much, especially coffee. And sometimes if it's excessive intake, it can be nausea, vomiting, convulsions, or heart problems as well if it's enough. So sensitivity to caffeine can vary significantly from one individual to the next. So Erica kind of mentioned in the chat, she seemed to get more of a boost from coffee than from other sources. So some people are more sensitive to caffeine than others. So some people might just have a small amount of caffeine and have some of these drawbacks, or some people might have a lot and not have them. So we have different levels of sensitivity to caffeine. Lots of you talked about not being able to sleep. So it's highly recommended that you shouldn't have caffeine 6 hours before going to bed. Okay, so if you're gonna have some coffee, don't have it too late, or energy drinks not too late in the afternoon. And as well, caffeine consumption can increase the adverse effects of stimulant drugs such as amphetamines. And it can even counteract the anti-anxiety effects of medications like lorazepam. So if you're taking some medications that you think might be affected by caffeine intake, hopefully your pharmacist has told you, but that's something to take into consideration. It can affect how well certain medications will work. And of course, sometimes if we're a regular consumer, we can get that physical and psychological dependence, which somebody mentioned in the chat, called caffeinism. So a new word for you. So that can happen to people. Again, remember that caffeine in energy drinks is a drug. Many people can consume energy drinks without encountering problems. However, if you have continued, frequent, or overuse of energy drinks, that can lead to negative impacts on health. Okay, next slide. So this chart is Health Canada's recommended maximum caffeine intake levels. So it's how much caffeine should people drink in Canada? What's the maximum level? And it's not a target. You want to say below the range, but it's okay to have no caffeine as well. So they break the population down into these populations. So children 12 and under, teenagers 13 and over, women who are pregnant or breastfeeding, and then healthy adults. So children, 2.5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So they've kind of broken those numbers down for the different age groups about how much caffeine, the maximum that they should have. Teenagers, it breaks it down totally by weight because of course some teenagers, a 14-year-old male can be a lot different size than a 14-year-old female and vice versa. So again, they use that 2.5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So if you weigh your teenager, you can do the calculation and figure out, and they did some calculations there for you. Women who are pregnant, 300 milligrams, and then healthy adults, which I assume most of us are healthy adults, we can have up to 400 milligrams of caffeine a day to stay within that moderate level. Then it gives the equivalent of a cup of filtered coffee, and a cup of filtered coffee contains about 135 milligrams of caffeine per cup. I'm sure most people aren't going to give their kids coffee, but it's just so you have an idea. So if a 4 to 6 year old had a third of a cup of coffee, that would be the maximum amount of caffeine they should have for that day. So again, he kind of gets the idea. So for a healthy adult, if you have 3 cups of coffee, and that means 3 250 milliliters, not 3 extra large Tim Hortons, you would be at the maximum level of caffeine you should have for the day. So if you are a Tim Hortons fan, a medium Tim Hortons has about 205 milligrams of caffeine because it's more than 250 milliliters, and 2 would put you at 410. So if you have 2 medium Tim Hortons, you would be at just a little over the limit of what you should have. And I often see people coming out of the Canucks or the Tim Hortons, not too many people have the medium cup. Usually people have the large or extra large. So it's good to be aware about, even if you're a coffee drinker, energy drinker, how much your caffeine limit should be. So the bottom line for caffeine, again, limit your intake to a maximum of 400 milligrams per day. You'll get the benefits without the negative side effects. So you'll get that wakefulness and help with athletic performance and those kinds of things, but you won't get the side effects that you guys mentioned in the chat. If you think you're consuming too much, and I know I've been consuming more now being at home, slowly reduce your intake over time to decrease your withdrawal symptoms. So don't go cold turkey because you're going to be irritable, probably grumpy, you'll get headaches, you'll be groggy, you'll be really miserable, and the people you're living with probably won't like you very much. So if you decide to do that, cut back slowly and just don't go cold turkey. So I'm going to check my time. Okay, so beyond the caffeine, so some of the other kind of things to think about when we look at energy drinks. Ooh, Maxim shared caffeine. Oh, the caffeine content. Awesome. Thanks, Maxim, the caffeine content in Tim Hortons coffee. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Okay, so energy drinks are sold as a traditional sweetened beverage. So for some people, energy drinks are not any different than other soft drinks. I never really thought about this before, so I did Google it, but why do we call them soft drinks? I could give a prize if we were face to face. So I'm asking a question, why do we call them soft drinks? So Coke, Pepsi, whatever it is, why do we call them soft drinks? They don't have alcohol. Awesome, Brian. I never even thought of that because they're not hard. I've been using the term soft drinks for years and years. And oh, Brad knows too. Hard drinks have alcohol. Maxim didn't know, so that's good. You learned something new. I did too. I didn't know why we called them soft drinks, although I knew there was like Mike's Hard Lemonade, but yeah, so soft drinks. So lots of people treat them just, energy drinks just the same as other soft drinks. Energy drinks can impact our weight and dental health because like other sugary drinks, they're high in calories and sugar. Erica said it's an English thing. I think so. I'm not sure what you call them in French. Maybe you, Maxim, can, yeah. Yeah, it's an English thing. We call them soft drinks. Energy drinks are also associated with the world of sports, although they're not designed to improve performance. So we talked about that some people might use them to improve performance, energy drinks, but they are not necessarily designed for that. So many sports events, athletes and teams, of course none right now are playing, but are sponsored by energy drink companies. So it sometimes gives the message to people that they can be healthy, especially younger people. Maxim saying, boys, I don't know, soft equals sweet equals contain sugar. Okay. Again, there are some risks of combining energy drinks with alcohol, and the labels must state do not mix with alcohol. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, what the risks are. There are commercially available alcoholic energy drinks, so I'll call them hard energy drinks, but they can contain only the natural sources of caffeine, and they can't have any synthetic caffeine added. And of course, the marketing is based on lifestyle. It appeals to young people and people seeking performance. So it often has some high-risk activities in it. The X Games was sponsored by, energy drink companies. There's snowboarding, skateboarding, BMX biking. Those things that I'm not going to try are often sponsored by energy drink companies. So next, we're going to have a look at sugar. So how much sugar is in an energy drink? So here it says about 13 teaspoons is an average energy drink. So would you put that much sugar in your coffee? So even if you're having a large or extra large, which might be your maximum caffeine intake for the day, would you put that much sugar in? Probably not. So here's a sugar chart, so showing how many teaspoons of sugar are in some sugary drinks. So an iced tea, a pop, an energy drink, a specialty coffee, and a sweetened bubble tea. So the World Health Organization recommends reducing your intake of added sugar to less than 10% of your total energy. So your total calories you take in every day. So if you are eating 2,000 calories a day, which is kind of the average, and some people might need more or less, but just kind of a number to work with, that would mean you should have no more than 50 grams or 12.5 teaspoons of sugar per day. So if you have an energy drink, that contains a bit more sugar than your daily allotment. So you have that one energy drink, that means you shouldn't have any more added sugar throughout the day. And chances are we are having some added sugar in the other foods that we're eating. So it's added sugar, it's not sugar that occurs naturally in foods, but if sugar is added to something. So just some other things about sugary beverages in general. It's always better to eat your calories than to drink them. If you drink your calories, they don't fill you up as much. Some sugary drinks can contain as many calories as a whole meal. So if you think of a specialty coffee there that has the 17 teaspoons of sugar in it, chances are it's got a lot of fat. Often people have whipped cream and caramel drizzle on it. So it can actually have as many calories as an entire meal. And especially this time of year, the weather's getting warmer, people having ice caps and frappuccinos and all of those, they can be very high in calories. Of course, excess calories can lead to weight gain, and having extra weight on our bodies can increase the risk of diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. And also sipping sugary drinks throughout the day can harm the teeth, leading to cavities or pain, which you don't want right now because it's pretty hard or impossible to see the dentist. So I apologize for the gruesomeness of this slide. Just some of the effects on our dental health of sugary drinks. So just a quote from the Canadian Dental Association: energy drinks and sodas can cause significant caries and erosion to both enamel, especially when consumed frequently and over time. So here's an example of what sugary drinks like energy drinks can do to your dental health. So this person was a regular energy drink user. They were a new member of the CAF, and these pictures were taken 2 years after they had joined. Before joining the CAF, they had minimal to no dental care, and they did not perform oral hygiene on any regular basis. So they weren't even like, say, brushing once a day that regularly. So they didn't have any dental care, and they also were not doing their own home hygiene either. And they were drinking one or sometimes two energy drinks. So of course, after their visit to the dentist, they did make some changes around drinking energy drinks and other sugary beverages. So it's really great to say we should cut out soda or soft drinks or other carbonated beverages out of our diets and just replace them with water. That's really ideal, but that's not necessarily realistic for everybody, because it's okay. Sometimes we want to have those carbonated beverages. So there are some simple things you can do to help preserve your oral health while occasionally indulging in those soda or those energy drinks. So you can reduce your soda consumption. So stock your refrigerator with other types of beverages to ensure you have some other options. Maybe limit yourself to that single soda or single energy drink every few days at the most, so not making it a daily habit. I know Ryan mentioned it becomes part of that daily habit. You can also rinse your mouth out after drinking soda or an energy drink. Drinking the soda is bad for your teeth, but the real damage happens when the sugars and the acids remain in your mouth after drinking them. So you can do a quick wash with water after drinking the soda, and that can reduce the sugars and therefore the acids by not giving the bacteria sugars to feed on. Okay, so rinsing your mouth out can help, especially if you're at work or somewhere where you don't have a toothbrush. Also use fluoride toothpaste. Fluoride has been shown to reduce cavities and strengthen tooth enamel. Brush with toothpaste that contains fluoride to limit damage from carbonated drinks. Get regular cleanings and fluoride treatments, which of course we can't do right now, but make sure you're doing that when we get back to normal. So regular cleanings help to ensure that small amounts of decay don't become larger issues over time. So the dentist will see that decay and can deal with it. Additionally, fluoride treatments in the form of gel or that rinse the dentist gives you can help strengthen your tooth enamel. And of course, if you have more questions, you can always talk to your dentist about that. So regulation of energy drinks. So how do we regulate energy drinks in Canada? So up until 2012, energy drinks were regulated by the Natural Health Product Act, and they were treated as a natural health product. But in 2012, they became regulated under the Food and Drug Regulation. So Health Canada classified energy drinks as food based on the public perception, the history of use, the product format, and the product representation. So energy drinks fit into a category of beverage with a caffeine content of between 200 to 400 milligrams per liter. All caffeine needs to be listed on the label of energy drinks, whether it's synthetic or comes from natural sources. So if you look at a chocolate bar, it probably has a bit of caffeine in it, but they're not going to list it because it's just natural sources. So they have to list all the caffeine, whether it's natural or synthetic. They will have a nutritional facts table on it. So just like my cereals or granola bars or bread or whatever you're buying, it'll have a similar nutritional facts table on it. They will have to list allergens. So if anyone has any allergies to anything, they can be aware of that. There also has to be these warning labels. It has to have these 4 things on it. It has to say high caffeine content. It has to say not intended for kids, pregnant or breastfeeding women, and people sensitive to caffeine. It needs to say do not consume more than blank per day. So often they'll say 1. It might say 2 depending on the caffeine level or the size of the energy drink. And also do not mix with alcohol, and I'll ask you about that shortly. There's also concentrated versions of energy drinks or energy shots. The most common is a 5-hour energy, just those little ones that you see. Usually I see them at the counter of the Canucks sometimes. And they're still subject to the Natural Health Product Regulations because of their format. So according to Health Canada, they're not the same as a traditional food. In a minute, we'll look at the caffeine content in them so you can see why they're regulated a little bit different. Okay, so this chart shows the caffeine content permitted by Health Canada in energy drinks and other soft drinks. So if it's non-resealable, so think of cans, you open it, you can't close it again, under 750 milliliters, they're allowed to have 400 milligrams per liter or 100 milligrams per container. Resealable ones, so ones you can open and then reclose, maximum 360 milligrams per liter. And then cola, 200 milligrams per liter. And then the other, which I'm covering up, is less than 200 as well. So energy drinks can contain up to 400 milligrams per liter of caffeine. So that's double the maximum level allowed for cola type soft drinks. But it also is equivalent to the natural caffeine that occurs in coffee. So coffee, the caffeine content of a regular filtered coffee can vary from about 310 to 850 milligrams per liter. So it fits in that energy drink or higher. The amount of caffeine in coffee can depend on a few different things. So it can depends on the type of beans, how those beans are roasted, and also how the coffee is made. And then the last column gives you, if you drink that amount, how many milligrams you get. So if you drink the 473 milliliter can of energy drink, you're getting 180 milligrams. And of course, you're not drinking a liter of cola, you're just having that can, so you get 71 milligrams of caffeine. So you can see the difference in caffeine levels between energy drinks and other carbonated soft drinks. They definitely have a lot more caffeine in them. And I remember I talked about that Jolt Cola had about 120 milligrams. So it had more than the cola of the time, but still not as much as energy drinks. So this is a chart. So it's showing some coffee, some carbonated soft drinks, some energy drinks, and then those concentrated energy drinks, so the 5-hour energy, and does a Red Bull shot as well. So they're going how much caffeine per serving. So coffee, it's doing a cup, so 250 milliliters. Espresso, of course, it doesn't, because you don't drink a huge amount of that. Then how much you're getting in a serving of a can of some colas. Then it does Monster Mutant Super Soda. And then energy drinks kind of does the 3 most common ones, Red Bull, Rockstar, Monster, and how much caffeine you get. So of course, if you're having a larger can, you're going to get more as well. And then if you have that concentrated energy drink, you are not getting as much because it's just a little container. But when we look at in the last column where it's the caffeine concentration, so how many milligrams would you get in a whole liter? Because that way we can compare it better. So we can see that coffee kind of fits in that energy drink, except of course if you have espresso. But if you drink a liter of espresso, I'm sure you're gonna have some adverse side effects and some quite serious things because that's a lot of caffeine. Again, if you're the milligrams per liter in carbonated soft drinks is quite a bit lower than it is in energy drinks. And then of course, when you get into those concentrated energy drinks, it's very high if you have a whole liter, although you wouldn't drink a whole liter, it's just for comparison. But you can see why they are not treated the same as food because of the high level of caffeine in them. So they're treated more like, they're treated like a supplement would be treated. So there can be some impact on total caffeine intake. So for adults, healthy adults can have 400 milligrams of caffeine per day. So you definitely could have an energy drink or two, depends on what size you're having, and still be within the limits of the amount of caffeine Health Canada recommends. The problem is there can be some issues primarily related to how they're consumed. So are people doing excess consumption? Are they drinking 4 or 5 energy drinks a day? Are they mixing an energy drink with a 5-hour energy shot? Are they mixing it with other substances as well? So are they mixing it with alcohol? And it can also be the lifestyle factors surrounding their use. So combining with alcohol, are they drinking it at parties? Are they having sleepless nights because they're drinking too much energy drinks or drinking them to stay awake, gaming or whatever? So that's often where the issue is. Children 12 years and under, again, should have no more, depending on the age, but no more than 45 to 85 milligrams of caffeine per day. So even having one energy drink is for them is going to put them over that limit. And again, depends on the type of soda you're having or how old they are. One may put them over the limit as well. So the consuming of energy drinks or other high caffeine beverages should therefore be avoided as recommended by Health Canada. So kids 12 years and younger should not be consuming energy drinks or any other high caffeinated beverages. We had that one table back that was how much coffee would be. And I said, of course, you're probably not feeding your kid coffee, but you may feed them carbonated, give them carbonated soft drinks. So it just lets you know what those levels are, and they definitely should not be having energy drinks. Now, teenagers, so 13 years and older, the caffeine content of an energy drink alone or in combination with other sources of caffeine in the diet could be excessive. So it's 2.5 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So the range for teenagers, again, depends on the size, but about 110 to 165. So for some people, just having one energy drink, especially if it's a larger one, could put them over that limit. Even the caffeine content of a single cup of coffee could exceed that limit. So the consumption of energy drinks or other drinks with high caffeinated content should therefore be avoided for teenagers, or at least limited, so that they're not having too much. And I think with energy drinks, and I don't know if anybody has teenagers, but also the high sugar content and the acidity of energy drinks can also justify limiting their consumption as well. So, having all that sugar, so with the effects of having too much sugar, and also for their dental health and their health in general. So Health Canada has some recommendations. So they're not intended to use while being active. So I have seen someone drinking one at the gym, but that's not what they're designed for. If you go ride your bike on the weekend, you shouldn't put a rock star on your bike. Not recommended for children, pregnant or breastfeeding women. Not recommended for those sensitive to caffeine, and you should limit it to no more than 500 milliliters a day. And I think that's why lots of energy drinks, they just have one, because they're that 473 milliliter size. And lastly, it says do not mix with alcohol. We've talked a bit about that. So I'm going to ask you that now. Why shouldn't we drink Jaeger bombs, mix vodka and Red Bull, Rockstar and whatever that is, or Monster? Why should we not mix them with alcohol? You can type your answers into the chat. So why should we not mix energy drinks and alcohol? Increase of the chance of liver damage, for sure, because you're not feeling the effects of the alcohol, so you can probably drink more alcohol and more energy drinks as well. Sometimes we consume more alcohol. Uppers and downers is a no bonito. They're both dehydrating, so become dehydrated. Oh, one's a depressant, the other is adrenaline. You're more likely to black out. Being drunk with loads of energy is not always the best combo. You don't feel the effects of alcohol. All awesome answers, all great answers. So yeah, so there's a variety of reasons, both dehydrating. Yeah, so get dehydrating, cause damage to your body. Sometimes we don't feel the effects of the alcohol. So sometimes we don't know how intoxicated we are. So we'll make some bad decisions. Sometimes the people around you might not realize how intoxicated you are either. So sometimes people might let you drive or do other things that might be high risk. So you don't always feel the effects of the alcohol. And so it's part of the reason if you do get that energy drink and alcohol at the bar, they don't mix it for you. So combined will create unrhythmic heart problems, which can lead to death for sure. So there's can always be some health risks with that. So good. Awesome. So don't mix with alcohol. Okay, lastly, just a bit about this. I've never had a relaxation drink. Moderate consumption of these beverages by healthy individuals is likely safe. Just kind of remember, often they'll claim to reduce your stress, relieve your anxiety. It's probably quite improbable they'll actually do those things for you. There's probably a lot more effective proven techniques you can do to manage your stress, your anxiety, than have a relaxation drink. I know there's some webinars on managing stress and resilience and stuff as well. So if you're interested in that, you can attend some of those webinars as well. And often they contain some herbs or different ingredients that are supposed to help with sleep. Has anyone ever had a relaxation drink or tried them or have a favorite one? I know there's some like Slow Cow, and I guess instead of Red Bull, Slow Cow. I'll ask you that question. We have a couple more minutes. Brian said no. Yeah, I don't think they're that popular. No. Someone said always curious. Yeah, we should look for some and see if we can find them. I don't think they're as popular as energy drinks, so you're not going to see them at the front of the store. Maybe they'll be more in a health food store or something, but yeah. guess maybe I'll give you some homework for the weekend, see if you can find a relaxation. I guess stores aren't open or as much as they should be. Oh, there was a Bob Marley one for marketing. Oh, that sounds good. I know they're talking about making cannabis drinks, but I don't know if that ever came out, but the Bob Marley thing would be very good marketing for a cannabis relaxation drink. Okay. So people kind of, I've asked you some questions. If anyone has any further questions for me, I'll give you a little bit of time to type those in. I'll do my best to answer them if I can. I hope you've learned something new about energy drinks today that maybe you didn't know before, even your caffeine consumption if you're not an energy drink user. When I was starting to prepare for this, I went to YouTube and just searched because I thought I might show a video if I could find a good one. I did find one that was quite good, but it was really long. It was 40 minutes, and it was a news story from CBC Canada, and it was called "Why Energy Drinks Can Be Deadly and Health Officials Don't Tell You." And it just came out in January of this year. Quite a bit of it was filmed in Quebec, but it's two parents who lost children who died, they think, from energy drink consumption. So it's quite good. And one of the fathers goes to Red Bull to talk to them. Of course, they're not very welcoming, but it is good if you have time to watch. It is about 40 minutes. If you go to YouTube and just search in, you know, energy drinks and CBC, I'm sure you'll get it. So I asked, the question was, is it better to switch to caffeinated tea, i.e. green tea or black tea? I think it's okay to have some caffeine as long as you're staying within that 400 milligrams per day. I think I kind of prefer coffee, but I think if you just look at the energy or the amount of caffeine that's in that, you can make the choice. Again, it talks about avoiding caffeine 6 hours before bed. So if you are having that tea, that green tea or that black tea, make sure you're not having it too close to bedtime and staying within that 400 milligrams of caffeine. I know green tea is supposed to have some other benefits as well. I just don't like the taste of it. I think if I did, I would drink some more of it. So thank you for the question. Hopefully I answered it. Any other questions? It's like 12:01. I said thanks. Awesome. So it's always stay within that limit. I'll give you I just have one last slide to go over. So if anybody does have any other questions, they're welcome to type them in. So just some resources that are available for CAF members and other people who are members of the defense team. So if you are feeling, you know, some extra stress, anxiety, even stress from helping others out or whatever else is going on in your life, there are some resources available. So the Canadian Forces Member Assistance Program, the Canadian Suicide Hotline, information on COVID-19, the Family Information Line, the Sexual Misconduct Response Center, the Kids Help Phone, which you can also reach by text as well, and then the ARC line in support of COVID-19. So those resources are available for people to access. So I didn't see any other questions, so it's good. Hopefully you've learned at least a few new things. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experience around caffeine. Brian says thank you. So thank you. I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. TGIF. Maxim said thank you. Awesome. Thanks. It was good. Larry said thanks. Laura Lynn, thanks. Awesome. Hey, Raquel, Amber, thanks. Everybody have a good weekend. Kaylee. Maxim's going to give the same presentation in French in 2 weeks. So Erica, you need to get on then. Awesome. And Bobby, thank you. Yeah, Maxim, lots of the resources, the information is from Quebec. So that's good. Awesome. Erica understood me. Awesome. Well, that's good. That's good. There are French webinars. They're usually really early in the morning, Erica, though they're usually often at 8:30. Hey, Matt, awesome, thank you. I am going to sign out and say goodbye. Everybody have a really awesome weekend, although there's still some people on, I believe. Thanks, Max, and you have a good weekend too. It's only noon for me, so still got to do some more work. Thanks, Brad. That's my boss, so it's good that he's given me some good praise. Stay away from the energy drinks. Usually. Anyway, I'm just going to put my, stop sharing my presentation. Most people are gone. Awesome. I'm going to end the session, signing off about energy drinks.